Dear global pioneers, my most cherished family, tonight, the night sky over Silicon Valley remains serene. I am sitting in my office with two vastly different reports before me. One concerns a traditional Silicon Valley startup that completed 3 rounds of financing in just 3 short months, backed by the world's top venture capital firms, VC. The other is the on-chain data of our Pi network, recording how 19 million real users across the globe, without a single cent of institutional investment, have built a massive digital ecosystem through the persistence of more than 2,400 days and nights. This has triggered a profound period of reflection for me. In the world of blockchain, there is a debate that never ceases. Is a project without capital intervention and institutional endorsement a pure land of idealism or a desert destined for failure? Today, I want to temporarily step away from my position as a founder and attempt to deconstruct this financial proposition from the most neutral and objective perspective. This is not only about the essence of Pi, it is about how every pioneer understands the logic of wealth in this era. First, capital is a double-edged sword, a source of power or a shackle of control. Family, we must objectively acknowledge that capital has played an extremely vital role in the progress of human civilization. In traditional business logic, capital is fuel. A good idea might take 10 years to land without the support of capital, but with an injection of $100 million, it could sweep the world within 1 year. The good of capital lies in its scale effect. With capital, a project can hire the most elite engineers, conduct aggressive marketing campaigns, and rapidly seize territory through massive subsidies in the early stages. This is why many pioneers ask, why doesn't Pi bring in big institutions to pump the market? Wouldn't it rise faster? But the bad of capital lies in its exit nature. Venture capital VC is not inherently charitable. It is an exchange. When an institution invests $10 million in the project, it has already written into the contract how it will take away $100 million. The entry of capital inevitably means the surrender of power. In projects controlled by capital, the community pioneers are often the last group to be considered, to satisfy an institution's requirement to go public or cash out within 3 years. Project parties often choose to overdraw the future and engage in radical operations. These projects often build a grand palace and feast the guests, but in the end, the building collapses, leaving behind a mess of feathers after the community has been harvested by capital. Therefore, a project without capital first wins its sovereignty. It does not need to answer to anyone except its users. Second, the vulnerability of capital-free projects. Slowness is the price, but also the tempering viewed neutrally. Projects without capital face enormous survival pressure. The first challenge is speed. Without money to buy traffic, you must rely on word of mouth. Without the money to hire a team of 1,000 people, you must rely on core developers and volunteers. Pi has traveled for 7 years. This is a miracle in the fast-paced cryptocurrency circle, but it is also a painful endurance. Many projects without capital support fail halfway because they lack development funds or cannot cover server costs before the ecosystem can bloom. The second challenge is the loneliness of cognition. In the era of capital hegemony, no institutional endorsement means it is difficult to enter the mainstream vision. Media will not report on you, and exchanges will exclude you because you have not paid them expensive protection fees. This leads community members to develop self-doubt during the long wait, just as many pioneers have felt. Why do we work so hard? Yet the outside world always calls us heir. This is the necessary path for capital-free projects. You must use a very long time to exchange for what capital can buy in an instant. But this slowness also has its benefits. It filters out speculators who only want to make quick money, leaving behind the backbone, who truly recognize the vision and are willing to grow with the ecosystem. Third, the ultimate logic of wealth distribution, who truly owns the original chips. This is the core neutral indicator for evaluating whether a project is good or bad. In capital-driven projects, the wealth distribution model is usually tilted. The founding team and VCS often occupy 50% or even 70% of the original chips. By the time the project goes live and the price rises, they are offloading to retail investors at an extremely low cost. In a project like Pi, which refuses traditional capital harvesting, The center of gravity of power has shifted. Because there is no VC, there is no private placement price. Every single pie is accumulated through time by lighting the lightning bolt every day. This means the chips are evenly scattered among 19 million real families worldwide. This distribution method is inefficient in the eyes of capitalists because they cannot profit by manipulating the price. But from the perspective of social equity, it is sacred. Is it a bad project? If you want to get rich overnight through it, it will indeed disappoint you. Is it a good project? If you want to participate in the largest wealth inclusion experiment in human history, it may be the only ticket. Fourth, ecosystem self-healing. How to create blood without blood transfusions. A project without capital must possess an extremely strong blood-creating ability if it wants to survive. Capital-driven projects can rely on burning money to maintain a false prosperity, but we cannot. Pi must take the path of barter. This is why we value merchants like StarMax so highly, and why we emphasize real applications after KYC. When a young man in Nigeria can pay his tuition with Pi, or a merchant in the Philippines is willing to trade rice for Pi, the system completes the leap from external transfusion to internal circulation. This value, supported by millions of tiny transactions, is more stable than any institutional injection. This is because it does not depend on the whims of a whale, but on the common survival needs of global pioneers. Conclusion: this is more than a project. It is a choice family. In summary, capital-driven projects are flowers in a greenhouse. They grow rapidly and look magnificent, but their roots are fragile, and the ownership of the flowers belongs to the gardener. Non-capital-driven projects, like Pi, are oak trees in the wilderness. Their growth is accompanied by wind and rain. The speed is extremely slow, and they are even often misunderstood as barren wood. But once their roots take firm hold of the earth, and once they become lush with leaves, they can provide shelter from the wind and rain for thousands upon thousands of ordinary people. The goodness or badness of a project without capital does not lie in whether it has money, but in whether it can maintain its independence and generate fire through faith and consensus. In the absence of fuel, please remain calm and stay neutral. Do not feel inferior because no capital has entered to pump the market. And do not be blindly fanatical because of our independence. What we must do is recognize the financial logic behind this and guard this web of trust we have woven together. Thank you, everyone. I will continue to stay with you until this oak tree grows into a forest.